Returning to Formula One in 2010, Mercedes have become one of the most successful teams in recent history, taking home both the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships in each of the last 6 seasons. In 2009, they were an engine supplier for the famous Brawn GP racing team. This was their way. Perhaps the most famous Formula One racing team of them all, Scuderia Ferrari have been competing in the sport since the birth of the World Championship in 1950. As well as having participated in every World Championship race, they're also the most decorated, with more wins than any other team in the history of the sport. Founded by Enzo Ferrari in 1929, Ferrari originally supported Red Bull made their constructors' debut in Formula One in 2005. Since then, they have become incredibly successful, with 4 Drivers' Championships and 4 Constructors' Championships to their name. For 11 seasons, the Red Bull team used Renault engines in their cars, but switched to Honda power units for the start of the 2019 season. Honda also supplied the power plant for the other Red Bull. Synonymous with the sport, Mclaren have been heavily involved in Formula One since their debut in 1966 at Monaco. In this time, they have had incredible success, bringing home 8 Constructors' Championships and 12 Drivers' Championships, making them the second most successful team of all time. For many, 1988 was probably the most memorable season for McLaren. Renault has been a part of Formula One for more than 40 years, starting as a constructor in 1977. As well as having their own team, they have acted as engine supplier for various partners over the years, where they have shared in many successes, including an incredible run in the 1990s with Williams and 4 back-to-back titles with Red Bull from 2010 to 2013. The Red Bull-owned AlphaTauri team was originally formed in 2006 under the name Scuderia Toro Rosso, with the intention of helping Red Bull's junior drivers, giving them a potential path into the parent team, Red Bull Racing. This allowed the Red Bull team to have 4 drivers racing during the same season. Since 2010, they have worked independently, with their own car being designed and built in Faenza, Italy. BWT Racing Point F1 team is made up of true racers. Based in Silverstone, the team celebrates 30 years in the sport in 2020. Although there have been many names above the door over the years, the passion and determination remains as strong as ever. 2019 was a year of learning for Racing Point, with drivers Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll collecting 70. Alfa Romeo Racing, formerly Sauber F1, have a long and varied history in motorsport, competing in various disciplines since the 1970s. But it wasn't until 1993 that they began their Formula One campaign. They've partnered with multiple engine manufacturers throughout their time in the sport, including both Ford and Ferrari, but the best results they achieved were between 2006 and 2000. Making their debut in 2016, the USA-based Haas team began strongly in the midfield, with Frenchman Romain Grosjean bringing his car across the finish line in 6th place in the team's very first race in the 2016 Australian Grand Prix. Since then, the Haas outfit have become regular points finishers. Ferrari supply the power units and transmission to Haas as part of a technical part. Making their debut in 1977, Williams are one of the most famous and well-recognized teams in motorsport. They started out as a very small single-car team in the 1970s and made their way to a position of absolute dominance through parts of the 1990s. In that time, Williams have had some of the most famous and accomplished drivers of all time in the driver's seat, including Nigel Mansell, Damon Hill, Jenson Button. The Mclaren Mp4, powered by the formidable Honda RA168E engine, won 15 out of the 16 races in in the 1988 Formula One season. The combination of engine, driving position, low center of gravity and advanced aerodynamics made the MP4 virtually unbeatable. It was so successful that it set the record for most wins in a single season. Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost finished the 1988 season in first and second place in the Drivers' Championship respectively. The 641, also known as the F190, was a similar-looking car to its predecessor, the 640. Lots of development was focused on keeping the engine as efficient as possible, specifically in improving cooling and airflow, which also involved aerodynamic tweaks to the bodywork. The car also featured a larger fuel tank and revised transmission. Ferrari's biggest gain for 1990 was the signing of Alain Prost from McLaren. 1990 proved to be the height of the famed rivalry between Prost and Ayrton. The MP4 5B was developed for the 1990 season with changes to body durability, larger fuel load, adjusted suspension geometry and a heavily reworked transmission. As a result, the car proved to be hugely successful during qualifying, eventually claiming a total of 12 pole positions. However, the Ferrari F190, driven by Ayrton Senna's great rival Alain Prost, kept the competition very close. Throughout the season, the development of the MP4 5B continued, with reduction in the weight of the engine, and later in the year, the first car for the Jordan F1 team, the Jordan 191, debuted at the 1991 USA Grand Prix, with a 10th place finish courtesy of French driver Bertrand Gachot. Powered by the Ford HbA4 V8 engine, the car would earn the fledgling team 13 points over the 16-race season, with a best finish of 4th. It was a highly respectable debut season for Eddie Jordan's team, and when a seat became available for the final 6 races of the year, a talented young German by the name of Michael Schumacher was offered his chance. The Mclaren Mp4 was McLaren's first Formula One car to feature a V12 engine. Although the power plant was much heavier than in previous seasons, the rest of the car had gone through an extensive weight-saving program, which resulted in a very similar final weight to previous years. Despite strong competition from the continually improving Williams FW14 Renault, McLaren held on to win the Constructors' title, and Ayrton Senna finished the World Championship in first place. The FW14B was an evolutionary development of the 1991 FW14 and made its race debut at the 1992 South African Grand Prix. Throughout the course of the year, the FW14B would prove to be the car to beat, winning the opening 5 races of the 1992 season. A crucial factor in the performance advantage was the use of an active ride suspension system used following a rigorous pre-season testing program. Nigel Mansell drove the car to a record-setting 9 race wins on his way to the Benetton B194, designed by Rory Byrne for the 1994 season, was an exceptionally competitive car in the wake of new technical regulations, which had banned the electronic driver aids prevalent in the previous year. Powered by a Ford Zetec R V8 engine produced by Cosworth, the B194 proved difficult to handle. JJ Leto, Jos Verstappen and Johnny Herbert all sat in the driver's seat throughout the season, but of them only Verstappen managed to reach the podium. In the hands of Michael Schumacher, however, the Benetton B195 was an evolution of the B194, which had propelled Michael Schumacher to the driver's title the previous year, and was now powered by a Renault RS7 V10 engine. Although drivers Michael Schumacher and Johnny Herbert had complaints around the balance and stability of the car, it nonetheless had the pace to take the fight to their main championship rivals, Williams. By the end of the 17-race season, the B195 had scored 11 victories, 4 pole positions and 8 fastest laps, resulting in the The FW18 appeared for its race debut at the 1996 Australian Grand Prix. New technical regulations for the 1996 season gave the FW18 an unusually shaped cockpit area, but despite this, the evolutionary approach adopted by the car's designers gave the FW18 a look that bore a clear resemblance to its predecessor, the FW17. Damon Hill was joined in the team by Canada's Jacques Villeneuve, the 1995 IndyCar champion. These two drivers dominated the season, winning 12 out of 16 races. The focus of the new technical regulations in 1998 were to improve safety by reducing cornering speeds. This led to the cars being made more narrow, and all four tyres now featured grooves to reduce overall grip. Much of the 1998 championship was dominated by the Mp4 13 due to a mix of efficient aerodynamic and chassis design, suspension setup, and the Mercedes-Benz V10 engine, which was both powerful and incredibly reliable. In this car, Mika Hakkinen took victory. The Ferrari F1 2000 is the legendary car that took Michael Schumacher to his third driver's title, his first at Ferrari, and marked the beginning of the Italian manufacturer's historic era of supremacy in the early and mid-2000s. The car was a direct evolution of its predecessor, the F399, with improved aerodynamics and a lower center of gravity due to the wider V-angle of the new Ferrari Tipo 049 V10 engine. The F1 2000 finished first or second in the Williams FW25 represented a big step forward from the race-winning FW24 of the previous year, which had great raw speed but lacked consistency, a problem that the team were determined to solve with their new design. The latest offering from engine partner BMW, the P83 V10, again saw the Munich-based organization field the most powerful engine on the Formula One grid. A stunning victory by Juan Pablo Montoya through the streets of Monaco proved the highlight in a strong season for the team. Further victories in the Europe. Based on the F2003 GA, the F2004 featured many changes throughout the car, including a new, more robust gearbox, lower center of gravity, revised rear wing, and redesigned rear suspension to assist in prolonging the life of the tyres. The engine was new, with a focus on lifespan and reliability, as new rules for that season required an engine to last a full race weekend. At the same time, Ferrari wanted to make the engine more powerful than the 051 that it replaced. The results were astonishing. Following on from their successful 2005 season, Renault had an excellent platform upon which to build their new car, the R26. Along with some aerodynamic changes, a new engine formula pushed the team to switch engines as well, moving to a smaller and less powerful V8 engine over the previous V10. This was also the first year that Renault used a 7-speed transmission, which enabled them to get the most out of their new V8, which lacked the torque of the monstrous V10s. The R26 employed mass damper technology. Ferrari made many changes to this car over its predecessor, the 248 F1. In order to increase aerodynamic efficiency, the wheelbase was increased, creating a longer nose. The rear end was made narrower, molded around the transmission housing. Work was also put into the bodywork and front suspension to reduce drag. The F2007 had run multiple liveries over the course of the season due to advertising regulations, and also began using a deeper shade of red at the Monaco Grand Prix. Kimi Räikkönen took his first ever World Championship win in the F2. The Mp4 made revisions from its predecessor with a longer wheelbase, improved aerodynamic pieces on the bodywork, and a brand new rear wing design. Throughout the year, McLaren experimented with different aerodynamic setups for various circuits, before settling on a consistent platform for the latter half of the season. McLaren finished second overall in the Constructors' Championship in 2008, but the driver's title was won by their driver Lewis Hamilton in a dramatic showdown at the Brazilian Grand Prix, making him, at the time, the youngest ever Formula. The BGP001 design began its life under the banner of Honda Racing, before their withdrawal from the sport in 2008 led their operation to be taken over by Ross Brawn, forming Brawn GP. Mercedes were brought in as a partner to provide the naturally aspirated V8 engine for the 2009 season. New technical regulations were introduced in this season, chiefly aerodynamic changes focused around the front and rear wings. The famous double diffuser solution pioneered by the BGP001 and others. The 2010 season saw the removal of mid-race refueling from the regulations, which had dramatic effects on race strategy, tyre management and, of course, car design. Now loaded with around 105 kilos of fuel at the start of the race, significant redesigns were required in many areas of the Ferrari F10, particularly in regards to the braking system and the longer wheelbase required to fit the larger fuel tank. Ferrari achieved 5 wins throughout the 2010 season, all courtesy of Fernando Alonso. The MP425 featured improvements over its predecessor, the MP424, especially with an aerodynamic innovation which proved controversial among competing teams. The driver was able to draw in air through the cockpit via an intake on the nose of the car and divert the flow to stall the rear wing. Doing so would reduce aerodynamic drag and thus allow for higher top speeds. The system was deemed legal by the FIA prior to the first race of the season. This change, plus further improvements throughout the year, helped drivers Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton. An evolution of the very successful RB5. The RB6 gained a larger fuel tank, more efficient cooling on the brakes, a double-decker diffuser and a high-performing engine, once again supplied by Renault. Beyond this, the car was very similar to the RB5, illustrating the extent to which the earlier car had been ahead of the curve. As traditional for Sebastian Vettel, who names all of his cars, his RB6 was christened Luscious Liz. Later in the season, when he required a new chassis, his replacement was named Randy Mandy. Throughout the season, the team achieved based in Le Mans, France, near the legendary circuit on which they've competed, Drio Associé Motorsport, or DAMS, were founded in 1988. DAMS have a rich history in racing, with many accolades from various disciplines, including Formula E, A1 GP, and Formula 3000. DAMS entered GP2 in 2005 and won the drivers' titles in 2011, 2012, and 2014. Competing in various forms of single-seat open-wheel racing, the Norfolk-based Virtuosi team have been involved in motorsport since 2012. Later competing in GP2, which was to become Formula 2, the team took over the running of Russian Time at the end of the 2018 season. Founded in 1996, the team that would become ART, known at the time as ASM and owned by Frederic Vasseur, finished in the top 3 on its debut race in the 1997 French Formula 3 Championship. In early 2005, Vasseur and Nicolas Tot teamed up to build upon the legacy of the team and created ART Grand Prix. The goal was to expand the operation to compete Mclaren are one of the largest teams outside Formula 1, with race-winning experience in a variety of championships. Some of today's most successful drivers have passed through the doors of Carlin, including racers in Formula 1, IndyCar, WTCC, and the DTM. Based in Farnham, Surrey, they entered Formula 2 in 2018 and took the team's championship in their debut season. Set up by former Formula One driver Adrian Campos, the Campos team has been racing in various forms of motorsport for over 20 years. They currently compete in Formula 2 and Formula 3, with notable results coming courtesy of Jack Aitken, who achieved 3 wins in the 2019 season. The best finish for Campos in the Teams Championship came with victory in the 2008 GP2 Series. Charouz entered Formula 2 for the first time in 2018, bringing with them many years of racing experience and championship wins. The team was founded in 1985 and is based in Prague, in the Czech Republic. As well as their competitive racing, they're also known off the track for their association with the Ferrari Driver Academy, helping young drivers to realize their full potential. Over the years, MP Motorsport is one of the biggest racing teams in Europe. Created in 1995, the Netherlands-based squad has been involved in many disciplines, including GP2 and GP3, before entering Formula 2 in 2017, where they took P6 in the championship and P8 the following year. Arden International was founded by former British racing driver Christian Horner and his father Gary Horner at the beginning of 1997 in order to contest the FIA Formula 3000 Championship. Over the years, the team has expanded its race operations to embrace many championships, including Formula 2. Through its partnership with the Young Racing Driver Academy, it provides a unique pathway from karting all the way to Formula 1. Prema Racing was founded in 1983 by Angelo Roscin and Giorgio Piccolo. In 1994, the team began to expand its activities at an international level, and since then it has become one of Europe's leading international racing teams. Ever since its inception, it has favoured the inclusion of young drivers, focusing on developing their talents and skills in order to help them reach the highest echelons of the sport. Based in Piedmont, Italy, Trident debuted in 2006 in the GP2 series. Throughout the seasons, they proved to be a force to be reckoned with, adding wins, podiums and pole positions to their records. They also entered the GP3 series in 2010 with great success. In 2017, they joined the Formula 2 grid.